Culture is not made up. With the creation of peace, the results of disorganization within the anti-Kondo community became clearer and clearer to me. The dynamic nature of groups demonstrated that even they began thinking the way that the con member wanted them to. The counteractions at the time, even from my capacities, were failures against the raw prevalence of emotion. Where intellect and willpower prevail in one individual, 10 more fail against the same struggle. It takes months or even years to develop the instruments necessary to assist another in this regard, even if one has succeeded themselves. As such, psychologically, it would prove ineffective if I had only used encouragement material to guide members. To optimize internal dedication, it wasn't enough to build a sense of community. Aligning this with identity is required. Only through my guidance was peace gradually able to preserve the values of proactivity and intellectual strength, even in moments of inactivity or demoralization. But what culture was promoted in the groups within peace? As much as I had learned about the anti-Kondo community, I was still developing my ability to apply this specific knowledge. Almost every anti-Kondo group, involved with peace or otherwise, conducted themselves with inconsistency, irrationality, to where another question became clear. How many factors contributed to this much insubordination? What happened to the potential and enthusiasm that most members demonstrate when they first join the anti-Kondo community? What did the ODH members do after the group became inactive? What could peace have done to prevent this from repeating, while simultaneously making permanent contributions against the Kondo groups? What culture could allow the sense of futility and disbelief to destroy the intellectual strength of so many, to prevent any improvements from occurring in the anti-Kondo community? Meanwhile, what legal actions were taken against the Kondo industry? Nothing. Every news article or report directed the fault onto roadblocks, and only occasionally the con member. Each instance demonstrated the public's crippling. Had a culture of intellectual strength accompanied the current digital censorship, then the appropriate psychological experts would have been able to contribute further against a relevant threat to society. In my initial time at peace, my position was once again humbled. I had a rapidly accelerating understanding of the con member, but with a weaker comprehension of the public and the anti-Kondo community, I was at the time unprepared to establish a permanent impact. Even when co-founding peace, I was a nameless user, 1 in 150 million. I knew it was ideal to keep biding my time and do what I could to enlighten peace's members. Culture is not made up, but something that evolves, which is human. An eye for an eye. Approaching the end of 2023, the first cracks in Nimrirad's objectives began to show. Aside from targeting a radical political structure instead of embracing it, his behavior resembled an impulsive leader descending into LARPA territory. By repeatedly targeting national socialist groups, anti-Kondo or otherwise, Nimrirad demonstrated that he had not joined the anti-Kondo community to destroy Kondos, but to remove the false anti-Kondo groups. In this regard, he was waging war on the majority of the anti-Kondo community, for most groups lacked either consistency or contribution. Therefore, if peace revolved around his leadership, the anti-Kondo community would be targeted before the Kondo community. To better illustrate my understanding, Nimrirad actively sought out and provoked leaders of anti-Kondo groups promoting National Socialism, often doing so behind my back. These provocations were seen, conflict established, and the members of both sides encouraged against the opposition rather than the true enemy, the Kondo community. In this conflict, Nimrod did raise one point that attracted attention. The main group Nimrod was targeting had reportedly threatened doxing against any anti-Kondo group that did not follow a fascist political structure. Nimrod attempted to fearmonger peace into engaging in further conflict, a plan which not only would obviously yield the opposite result, but further demonstrated that he is unfit for leadership. Coincidentally, Nimrod had been making the same mistakes as Fon. He prioritized his personal preferences over peace's original objective, and directed all efforts towards this. I had seen the results of this misuse, and knew that it could derail several groups away from preserving their intellectual strength, away from learning to resist impulse and comfort. It was through resolving this conflict that further showed me the state of the anti-Kondo community as a whole. That exposed me to the self-centered propaganda. That exposed me to the inefficiency of raids against Kondo groups. That further convinced me a change in the anti-Kondo community was overdue. Regarding this, aside from the occasional infiltration and removal of a Kondo group's members, little was done to establish a permanent impact. Like the very same groups he opposed, Nimrod consistently worked to satisfy his own interests, prolonging the presence of the Kondo community by propagating internal conflict. The same time used against other anti-Kondo groups could be time used to gather relevant information, or to consolidate the values of peace against the Kon member. Therefore, much of peace's contribution was spent gathering and reinforcing the determinations of other anti-Kondo groups. I was preoccupied primarily with encouragement material and reversing Nimrod's mistakes. As predicted, the rest of peace gradually became dissatisfied, while their groups continued to report Kon members to temporarily contain them. Fortunately, peace is an alliance, not a standard group. As such, members are able to attend to their own groups while learning from peace. Any crisis or internal conflict will not stop them from developing the knowledge I had compiled in Kondology study. Already, the long-term impacts of a consistent objective were bearing positive results. After a month passed, I focused on navigating my final year of high school and notified Peace that I will be taking a hiatus from the group. I had ensured that every member knew that the Kondo community are our enemies, and they alone are our enemies. While this absence may seem hypocritical of someone who seeks to contribute wholeheartedly against Kondo groups, it is this same wholeheartedness that notified me of my limits. My disdain for the Kon member is only matched by my pursuit of intellectual strength, and a portion of training that involves the ability to learn. Of course, I sought to attribute my studies for the purposes of understanding either the Kondo or anti-Kondo communities. The role of each subject will digress from the crucial lesson here, for there was a more relevant problem waiting when I returned. In my absence, Nimrod had once again involved peace in a conflict, and once again with a National Socialist anti-Kondo group. Even after I warned him against this, I had left the alliance with promising growth, only to return to the same disorder I had actively sought to avoid. Confronting Nimrod, he claimed that the other group had declared war on peace first. This was irrelevant. The other group was neither a Kondo group nor posed any genuine hindrance to peace. As for the rest of peace, they had fortunately not been significantly derailed from their objectives. Consistently reinforcing a culture of dedication, specifically against the Kon members' influence, has prevented peace from making the same mistakes as Fon's MB. I was surprised to discover my growth as a leader. Even from Nimryarad's incompetence, these people miraculously demonstrated growing intellectual strength. Unfortunately, this did not mean Nimryarad had no impact on peace in my absence. Several anti-Kondo group leaders had departed from the alliance, recognizing that Nimryarad's continued presence prevented peace from contributing consistently against the Kondo community. My return caused these leaders to consider returning to peace, with varied results. As for the group that declared war, I heard something that was common in Kon members, but this was my first time hearing it from an anti-Kondo group. Leaders bragging about their own weakness. This paralleled the internal conflicts observable in Fon's MB. Through the drama, the agitators spoke the most, portraying those with more consistent objectives as cowardly, while glorifying themselves as they leech off the reputation of accomplished leaders. In contrast to peace, the culture of this other group revolved around National Socialism. One higher rank from this other group boasted about forcing a defector to harm themselves. Despite this outcome only affecting this group, they represented their crime as an achievement against degeneracy, with no explanation or opposition at all. Even when the war had already started, I completely withdrew peace from any involvement with the other group. After I ensured that peace never got involved with this group again, I reflected on what could have happened had my hiatus lasted even a week longer. What could peace have become? Its members knew clearly exactly why this conflict was detrimental to peace's consistency and progression. While they had full understanding, nothing was done until I returned. An eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. Corruption is fire. When I hesitantly reassured myself that peace can stay consistent without me, I revisited the allied groups of peace. Many of them were encountering the first traces of inactivity. Discontent was common. Clearly, the members had been affected when the Kon members exploited societal lenience to spread their corruptive weakness. A reported incident in England illustrates how the Kon members are intentionally spreading their beliefs and behaviors beyond the Kondo groups alone. If even anti-Kondo groups are suffering from disbelief and futility, imagine how the public would have responded to the Kon members' influence. The Roblox community was unrecognizable in less than 20 years. Resentment, indignation, most of it towards Roblox, yet little action was taken to resolve this. A contributing factor was the fact that the inactivity of the older members reduced the sense of necessity for the younger members to adopt a proactive stance. After all, anyone who knows the soul of youth understands that they will act out most joyfully to what they are exposed to, and they are exposed to a culture of tolerance and complacency. While the younger members will grow the values that can be optimized by the intellectually strong anti-Kondo users, these actions will be new to the older members of the Roblox community, with few able to fully explain the necessity of proactivity. Excluding the newest members of the Roblox community, the general consensus was that a blind eye was turned to the Kon member, who was already known as a major contributor to Roblox infamy for child endangerment. Self-discipline alone was often mistaken as enlightenment, while dedicated action was gaslighted as scapegoating. Not just Roblox, but society itself, was exposed to the Kon members' influence. 83% of marketer companies utilize social media for marketing tactics, with 88% of those companies seeing improvements to their marketing experience and revenue. Since customers choose products that they believe aligns further with their values, it is easier than ever to promote convenience, weakening society's intellectual growth. I was unsurprised at the extent that people rely on social media for their decisions and personality, and could not help but notice the transition of impulse and comfort away from being recognized as limitations. Regarding the businesses themselves, the con member had exploited social media for the condo industry to grow. Nowhere can the stereotypical corporate corruption be clearer than in condo game creation. Their venom is just as long-lasting, if not permanent, within its audience, humans and con members alike. Several news articles reflect the research that social media has a strong impact on political engagement. It was discussed earlier how businesses profit from reinforcing values aligned with their products. With the condo community, its members undergo not just an ideological shift, but a neurological change as well. Needless to say, nearly the entire world is vulnerable against the con members' influence. Instead, against whom was responsibility directed at? The consumer who misused the product? The company that designed the product? To discipline one of these two for an incident leaves the true problem untouched, preserving the growth of corruption and weakness which will cause the same incident to repeat, regardless of its nature. While the con member sabotaged society and watched the public choose a scapegoat, the pattern of injustice was absorbed by the Roblox community. Few both suspected and cared about Roblox fallacies deriving from improper perceptions of strength. Even if PACE successfully educated and motivated the entire anti-condo community, it is certainly a different obstacle to repeat this with the Roblox community. In this, I could see the corruptive tricks of the con member, intentionally or otherwise, evading action taken against itself. While Roblox company and community conflicted, the con leader propagated itself under their noses, continuing to create bypasses against Roblox moderation AI. I see no benefit from this situation, and need to illustrate this to PACE as soon as possible. Corruption is fire. Social media is gasoline. The future houses hope. Towards the earlier months of 2024, the lowest point of peace seemed to pass. While the groups within peace began to lose their determination, the members within peace itself retained their intellectual strength. My goal to reinforce a culture of long-lasting dedication has once again proven sustainable, but only when I engage in direct contact with a small audience. Again, the voices of discontent can be heard, and productive actions unused. Again, people believed in the futility of restricting or eliminating the con members' influence. Even despite the efforts of anti-condo influencers such as Schlepp or Rubensim, the con members' sheer reliance on impulse ensured that they never stopped propagating their corruption, further demonstrating the extent of their inhumanity. It was because of the growing demoralization or apathy from the public that peace became a beacon of faith, though the disbelieving might dismiss it as blind optimism. However, while peace made preparations to eventually conclude the struggle against the condo community, endless LARPers were stealing away genuine potential and instilling it with irrelevant and temporary values. The LARPers, especially the extremists, are run solely by an impulse to abandon strength and the comfort of excess autonomy. Just like the con member, both groups that Nimrod nearly dragged peace against saw the other as a threat and engaged in a war. Everything they organized was directed away from eliminating the true enemy, the condo community. I never received word of who was victorious in this conflict, but a success from either side would destabilize them both. From my knowledge, both groups had doxed members and enemies before, both promoted National Socialism, and both believed that the anti-condo community should revolve around them. How much more terrible could the outcome have been had Nimrod succeeded in sabotaging peace's consistent progress? What was Nimrod truly fighting for if he did not prioritize opposition against the Kondo community? When he expects peace to turn away from what we worked for, of course several group leaders would depart from this alliance. And the effect on the enemy? Nothing has changed, nor will anything change even if the war continues. Against the Kondo community alone, years of trial and error did not prompt either the Roblox administration or the anti-Kondo community to adjust its methods. Fortunately, peace retained a consistent goal, and thus consistently increasing potential. My understanding of the anti-Kondo community, thanks to the many groups I have contact with, is improving significantly. The hopelessness of the anti-Kondo community has now been recognized as its enemy, and the Con members knew it as well as I did. This is why any sense of futility and disbelief towards the possibility of removing the Kondo community permanently is always, in some shape or form, traced back to the Con member. With deliberation after deliberation, the Con member's influence is now visible in a much wider range of settings. It is certainly much harder to disprove the Con member's relevance towards innate weakness once the public understands itself and the Kondo community. Where the public once saw the Con member as irrelevant to society, with a proper understanding they will realize that the Con member embodies all corruption they had previously antagonized. This understanding contributes to differentiating peace from other anti-Kondo groups or alliances. The general lack of knowledge among the anti-Kondo community is being addressed, resulting in successful, permanent, and beneficial effects. The years of laughable aimlessness were slowly becoming valuable warnings for peace's actions. Reality seemed to confirm this hope. I have been questioned by several individuals about the realism of permanently removing the Kondo community, and with each explanation, both my morale and that of peace grows stronger. The question to be asked is not how long can the anti-Kondo community keep fighting for. The real question was now how long can the Kondo community stay hidden for. As long as the hopeful determination cultivated by peace continues to thrive, the downfall of the Kondo community, regardless of how long it is postponed, will inevitably occur. To contradict myself. Despite seeing progress, I knew it was not time yet to reveal peace to the Con members. We were not yet capable of instilling a warning to those who had abandoned their humanity so blindly. How could we count on our presence being any contribution if we had yet to establish a reliable foundation, let alone enlighten the general public? Until I knew for certain that peace cannot remain speechless, I had no intention of making its presence known. The Con members' influence had already proliferated in much of society, lowering the Roblox community's limited motivation to take action. Until the correct time, when the witness finally grows the public's understanding, the fight for intellectual strength will not be decided by the boldness of the Con member, but the perseverance against their corruption. Let the news release as many articles about Kondos and the predators as they can, Each incident will only support the impact of my research and experiences. Regardless of how widely information is spread, there is no better teacher than experience. What the witness hoped to achieve is what peace worked to reinforce internally, to strengthen our belief of intellectual strength, and to cure the paralyzing futility proliferated by the con member, to consistently recognize the true embodiment, if not instigator, of all human weakness as the con member, and the con member alone. From the public eye, and at one point my own, it was believed that authority involvement will demonstrate a permanent victory against the con member. However, even they always failed to prevent the consequences from occurring. July 2018. A 7-year-old child
was attacked by two male characters staging violent sexual acts. March 2022. A 13-year-old girl was kidnapped by a man she met through the children's gaming app Roblox.
August 2023. A notable Roblox user
communicated with and groomed a 15-year-old girl via social media and gaming applications such as Instagram, Roblox, and Discord.
December 2024. A 9-year-old child
was befriended by a predator on Roblox before being bombarded with sexually graphic videos, photos, and messages.
March 2025.
10-year-old girl kidnapped by man she met on Roblox.
Based on the patterns observed here, the rate of similar incidents will only increase. Despite this, the con leader continues to promote their industry, disregarding that their games actively promote the same sentiments used to disrupt not just the children affected, but also the socialization process of Roblox audience, regardless of whether the games contain a predator. Once again, my growth during the global transition into the digital era was fortunate. In my most impressionable years, I lived through a world adjusting to social media, while in my most educated years, I lived in a world revolving around this. Regardless of any initial opinions towards any behaviors, the child will still act out to what they are exposed to. Which brings us back to why I decided to reveal my work only at the right time. Even when succeeding in peace, I knew that I had yet to fully understand my own experience. I learned from my mistakes leading the ODH and asked myself, after I present accurate information, how can I apply it? Contrary to my previous beliefs, a scientific approach like condology study demonstrates difficulty to encourage proactivity. While I can apply it to the con member, addressing the anti-condo community is another issue entirely. I needed the best teacher. I needed the help of experience. Those who benefit most from my experience vary vastly in age groups, and by extension, general values. Where most anti-condo users appeal to highly developed morality levels, I needed to illustrate that any moral stage inherently conflicts with the con member. And to adequately appeal to any level of humanity, it became necessary to rebuild my values from scratch. When I first joined the anti-condo community, I contributed because I was taught to actively oppose injustice. After the ODH disbanded, I continued contributing to the anti-condo community because I was taught that it was the right thing to do. When peace was founded, I reinforced determination among its members because I was fighting for a cause I believed was right. Throughout peace, and up to today, my primary reason for contributing disregarded what I believed was right. Where various individuals disregarded the significance of justice, they cannot deny their humanity. My primary reason to oppose the con member is because they embodied the absence of what makes humanity valuable. To contradict myself avoids conforming to my own taste. The trust of the empathetic. Before I started writing The Witness, addressing various audiences would also highly benefit my encouragement material. American psychologist Lawrence Kohlberg's stages of moral development assisted in this regard, especially when I recognized how different parts of the Roblox community fit into each stage. Stage 1 revolves around fear of punishment or retribution, and reflects the general public. While they are indifferent towards the presence of the condo group, they avoid becoming con members mostly because they recognize it is against the Roblox community standards. Therefore, con members disregard even the most basic stage of morality. Stage 2 compels actions out of an expected reward, and are seen in influencers who monetize the conflict against condos, but never take any action. The most notable examples are the news organizations and con leaders, though the con members themselves follow impulse and not any foreseeable reward. In Stage 3, actions are taken out of adherence to social expectations and are representative of the anti-condo LARPers. They never sought to recognize the significance of eliminating condos and only joined for social popularity. While some con members indeed seek others' responses, those are usually driven by infamy and fall outside any category of moral standards. The territory of the true anti-condo user starts in Stage 4, which emphasizes the importance of societal order and authority. Very few anti-condo users remain at this stage, though I am currently one of those few. Having seen the disorder and lack of control that con leaders possess over their groups, I understood the true threat of the con member towards not just societal order, but the quality of humanity. Social values and empathy characterize Stage 5, and are reflected in the anti-condo users who are unaware of the con member's neurological and psychological incompatibility with society. Regarding Stage 5 and beyond, the con member outwardly rejects its values and makes no attempt at understanding them. The arguably indistinguishable Stage 6 utilizes universal principles of justice, which individuals at this stage adhere to when making decisions. This often conflicts with laws and rules, evident in the majority of the anti-condo community. They continue to fight the con members' influence regardless of the Roblox company's actions regarding condos, within the news or otherwise. Unfortunately, behaviors often contradict with beliefs and reasoning, which makes utilizing this knowledge all the more difficult. It does not help that the ability to emphasize outside of your own stage is rare, and requires extensive and adequate experiences. The general public, for example, couldn't see on their own why the true anti-condo community are so determined to achieve their objectives, even if their lives depended on it. On the other end, the anti-condo users excessively valuing justice or compassion cannot comprehend that the con member, already outside of all moral development, will either voluntarily or inherently reject or regress from any efforts to change. As such, my original position at Morality Stage 6 had to be discarded in favor of practicality and intellectual strength. I still hated the con members, the promoters of weakness and the traitors to their own humanity. It had long been clear that they had no concern over their own welfare or that of their peers, only with satisfaction or profit. This is why they are a significant contributor to, if not the direct cause, of the impulsive selfishness and corruption running rampant in the digital age. In my eyes, to call them human contradicts everything that makes humanity valuable. To truly take consideration of the con members' wishes requires sacrificing all moral actions of the public, and all for the benefit of the intellectually weakest. The vast majority of the roadblocks and anti-condo communities did not realize this, and thus, the number of con members only continued to grow, and the initial determination of the newest anti-condo users became comparatively weaker. It is undoubtedly difficult to believe that the average member of the public is closer to the con member than the intellectually strong. The influence of the con member only spread more and more, evident in the Turkish protesters fighting against Roblox ban, working to knowingly preserve child exploitation and reports of inappropriate sexual content that were the reason Roblox was banned in Turkey. Following early 2024, I stopped revolving my encouragement material around justice and started appealing to the public's innate foundations, namely the interest in a reward and the fear of consequence. Intellectual strength is a reward that retains value for an entire lifetime, while the con member's influence is undoubtedly consequential on at the very least the individual's mindset. Thanks to my consistency and experiences, peace had formed adults out of teenagers. All that I had yet to master was to form teenagers out of children. Though the objective remained the same, the world had changed. Once the home of the anti-condo community, Roblox had become little more than a chaotic hive of anarchy. The wholesome discussions about favorite games now became the anesthetic that hides the evils of the con member. In my final year of high school, I became certain that the greatest danger to humanity was empathizing with the desire for autonomy. The trust of the empathetic is the liar's most useful tool. Peace raises conflict. For months I had known 3 others who had been major contributors to peace, all of who led their own anti-condo group during its formation. Their individual groups were declining in activity, but I could not have overlooked the possibility of this given the fate of the ODH. Unfavorable departures were always occurring from the anti-condo community, especially with the con member actively promoting their twisted values into society. Even this, however, was more the limited knowledge of the individual leaders rather than the group members. Even among the general public, people were discussing the end of the condo community, which everyone hoped would occur soon, but there was no evidence of any swift action taken. Even I had been unable to deduce a method to put a stop to the condo community without involving the infamously unreliable Roblox moderation. One day, unexpectedly, those 3 peace members made an agreement with Nimri Arad to restructure peace drastically. This involved a new name, new methods, and new roles. All 3 members had been promoted to ministry leaders, with Nimri Arad and I occupying the same position. To my uneasiness, peace was restructured into a democratic group that combined it with the remaining anti-condo groups in our alliance. There was even an unsuccessful establishment of parties. Nimri Arad had once again attached a personal political agenda to peace, and this time, I did not have the adequate experience nor explanation to refute this transition. With peace's restructuring and approaching, I continued with my original role in peace and compiled more information on the anti-condo, condo, and Roblox communities. However, my results were now proposed from the perspective of a selected leader, and not just a member of the anti-condo community. It is much harder to make myself relatable to audiences who have little to no experience in peace or its successor. With the formation of ministry leaders, I could no longer establish a similar dedication against the con member as efficiently as I had in peace. Despite this, I still hoped that my educational resources would be enough to consolidate and preserve peace's culture of consistency. This is where peace's limitations as an alliance became clearer. Despite being a co-founder, I had little consequential power over the members of my allied groups, leading to only the leaders retaining their determination to work against the Kondo community. Here, while my methods are more unreliable at garnering complete understanding, they can potentially motivate a larger audience. Though I believe that the will of a true human is superior to the impulse of the con member, developing yourself or another to embody a true human becomes more difficult with each action. The role I had reluctantly accepted became an opportunity for me to grow intellectually stronger. In the ODH, I learned about the Kondo community. In peace, I learned about the anti-Kondo community. Now, I learn how to teach others about both. All the while, what I had sought to be an alliance became its own anti-Kondo group. All groups within the Peace Alliance had effectively been disbanded during the merging, which made little difference given that these groups were declining in activity regardless. From the fear of reverting back to my old mistakes, I had come closer than ever to losing the willpower to continue contributing. Even though I lived through and worked tirelessly to recognize my own failures, was the anti-Kondo community destined to repeat them in the end? Had all my sacrifices for the elimination of Kondos been for nothing? In response to this, my experiences returned with an indignant harshness. All the stories I learned from my associates, the incidents mentioned in the news, the year's worth of research. How can I justify losing my strength there when many others had lived through much worse? I couldn't justify this, nor can I ever justify it. All personal despair pales in comparison to that of a society governed by impulse, complacent comfort, and disorderly autonomy. However, I had worked to prepare myself for this. I knew what it means to be strong, to be human, to act on true benefit rather than emotion or instinct. Because of this, my experiences and efforts will never become redundant. Despite being allowed to drop one, I had studied 6 subjects in high school, as I am not about to waste any opportunity for growth. Despite psychology or neurology not being a high school subject nor my university course, I was not about to let my interest in them go to waste. I was not going to rest upon receiving just a portion of the outcome I had spent years studying and theorizing over. As for the anti-Kondo community, had their founders' mistakes been unworthy to learn about? Does the current generation feel no obligation towards its history? And how can genuine beliefs in humanity's value be taught in a society slowly becoming corrupted by the con members, the criminals and degenerates of the digital age? In the days that followed, I thought of peace's future, now cut short. It was ridiculous to emulate what had failed, and it had finally occurred to me what my emotions had prevented me from seeing. Even the anti-Kondo community was not the end, but the means. We cannot compromise with the con member, nor can we compromise with those who have never known the lessons we knew. If I was going to be forced into a democracy, I am more than willing to optimize my time here. In October 2024, peace was disbanded, and in its place stood the United Front Against Cons and E-Dating, or U-Face. Peace raises conflict, which promotes growth.